Hey, what's up? It's Bond, and today we're going to talk about Mass Effect and a little detail that I know I completely missed in the when is it going to come out conversation when it pertains to the next game. And I don't think anyone else really talked about it, though I could have missed it. You'll find that content creators are the worst consumers of other people's videos. Because we don't have time. So let's jump right into it. So by now, this exchange between Tamoor Hussain and Jeff Grubb has become very famous amongst the Mass Effect community, especially the people who are kind of keeping tabs on and looking forward to the next game, where Jeff Grubb basically says the next Mass Effect game is really far off. This was, I believe, the day after N7 Day, which surprises no one. And then he seemed to do some kind of math in his head and be like, well, if it's like Dreadwolf, it won't come out till 2029. And then after that, in the subsequent days, kind of doubled down on that statement, alluding to that that's what he was told by a source, but also kind of not entirely going in on that. We've talked about it a lot. I've given my feelings on it. I'm not super confident in it, but who knows? The part of this conversation that I don't remember having myself, and I don't remember seeing a lot of other people have, was this other exchange that happened, where Paul Tassi, who's a writer on gaming for Forbes, posted, retweeted this Mass Effect post when they released the full trailer and said, Anthem came out in 2019. I think it's time for a bit more than this. To which Tom Henderson responded, 3 or 4 more years yet. Why this is notable is that it does surprise me that Tassi may not have any real sources on this. He's a pretty prolific writer. I will admit, not really the biggest fan myself. I think he delves into clickbait quite often, and it is a bit understandable, though, that maybe Mass Effect isn't really his beat. He mostly covers looter shooters like The Division, and especially Destiny is kind of his main beat. Now, Tom Henderson, on the other hand, is someone who I'm also, not following very closely. He's got some kind of weird takes when it comes to leaks and rumors and how they should be reported on. But I do think it's basically impossible to not acknowledge that he is a really prolific leaker and kind of rumor mill guy. And one thing of note for Tom Henderson is that he is the owner and runner of Insider Gaming. I didn't misspeak. Yes, there are like 8 different Inside Gaming networks and channels and products, but this one specifically is him, where he tends to reveal most of his big leaks and rumors. But what's notable about this tweet is that he's saying 3 or 4 more years yet. I've talked about this before, where Jeff Grubb was a journalist when he was with GamesBeat, before he left there and went to Giant Bomb, where he has become more of like an entertainment personality. If you watch any of their streams, if you watch their content, he does occasionally break news. He's mostly reporting on other people's reporting at this point. And I've been watching the guy for quite a while. My subjective take is that he's gotten a flair for the dramatic, especially in the last couple years. Where if you watch any of their streams and hear them talk about subjects like Red Dead Redemption 2 or anything related to Xbox and so on, you'll find that maybe he's going more for the click value of statements these days than necessarily being like a hardcore, like typical games journalist. And that's fine. That's a Giant Bomb is not at this point necessarily a journalism source, but more of a source of entertainment and fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. When you speak to Tom Henderson, while I think that his methods of gaining information are often kind of rough, and dealing in leaks is really tough because, for the most part, we want to see developers be able to talk about their games when they're ready to talk about them and in a format that they feel like is best to talk about their games and show their games off. It's hard to deny his knowledge and how most of the time that he has big scoops, they tend to be correct. So when it comes to Mass Effect, the next Mass Effect game, I think that there's at least something to take from him, giving a timeline that I would say is more typical to what most of the fans and even my fellow creators have been saying when we've been kind of trying to timeline out this next game. I would still argue pretty heavily that that 3 or 4 year timeline makes more sense with what we know. I have tried to poke a lot of holes in what Jeff Grubb has said, mostly out of hopium and copium, for not wanting to have to wait another 5 years, 6 years for the next Mass Effect game, but also because I do think that there's been some inconsistencies and just things that kind of don't make sense in some of the stuff that Grubb has said, where this extremely simple statement by Tom Henderson, which I don't believe he's really elaborated on, just kind of is in more line with some of the things that I've been talking about for quite a while, and even from some AAA developers who I've kind of poked about the happenings over at BioWare, showing them announcements they've made, showing them hirings they're making, and kind of like, hey, if this was your game that you're working on, where would you say it's at? And those conversations all leading to this guess I've pretty much stuck with at this point of a late 2026, early 2027 release date for the next Mass Effect game. Now, there's all kinds of factors we've talked quite a bit about. You know, there could be delays, there could be reboots, which would obviously push it back. They could decide to go and do a big open world, crazy scaled Mass Effect game that would extend it out, as opposed to the rumored smaller scale kind of trilogy-esque game that we played before, as opposed to, you know, the Andromeda open world style, which, you know, games like that just take a lot more time, as we've seen with Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which is, you know, likely going to be a gigantic game. I just have a hard time believing that BioWare is going to go from that and kind of the troubled development of Dreadwolf right back into a similarly scaled project. I really believe that the next Mass Effect is going to be smaller scaled, especially if the plan is to do multiple games, where we may be looking at, you know, a 25-30 hour game instead of some 90-hour epic, if the plan is to release, you know, maybe a trilogy of 20 to 25 hour games that will all work together, similar to how the trilogy worked back in the day when Mass Effect first came out. So not a lot of new info here, but just trying to kind of bring together some info and talk about a thing I hadn't spoken about before, because honestly I hadn't noticed it. Does it mean anything? Not really. We have no idea what's going on, and we're kind of at the whims of Mike Gamble and BioWare and EA to find out more and to get anything concrete, which I think we are all hoping for very quickly. But should not expect that anytime soon, in my opinion. So there's that. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button as well. Give me your thoughts down in the comments below. I'm very curious to hear from you. You can check me out all over the internet as Bond Diesel, including over on Twitch, where I try to stream a few times a month. I also have 2 podcasts. One is The Bonfire, which is a weekly gaming news podcast. The other is the Mass Effect Hypecast, where monthly-ish I post episodes just about the future of the game and any news that has come out about it. You can find both of those right here on YouTube or over on any of the podcast networks. That's all I have for this one, so until next time.